Tanse, James Jones, Nisakasigon, Nachiaunia, Cree First Nations, Ochania, Gisa Manatao, Nenaskamau Ihi. Hi everyone, my name is James Jones, otherwise known as Notorious Cree. I am from Cree First Nations, which is located in Treaty 8 territory. And it's kind of funny how I got the name Notorious Cree. I was trying to choose a name for my TikTok account, and my old name was just basically my last name, and I put dancer to it, so it was just Jones Dancer. It was kind of lame, to be honest. And I was telling my sister like I was gonna name my TikTok profile that, and she was like, that sucks. Like, you should get a better name. And I was at the time watching a documentary about Notorious B.I.G. So I was gonna name myself Notorious Cree I.G. But I ended up just taking out the I.G. and just saying Notorious Cree. Yeah. Grew up north, so up in Treaty 8 territory, and I moved to Edmonton basically when I was 9 years old. And growing up in the inner city, there was a lot of Indigenous hip-hop artists. So there was rappers, DJs, breakdancers, graffiti writers, and I ended up becoming friends with a group of Indigenous breakdancers who kind of took me under their wing and showed me how to dance. So that's kind of how I started off dancing, was hip-hop. And then later on, one of those dancers was a powwow dancer as well as a break dancer. So they kind of took me to my first powwow and just showed me some of the dances and some of the art we have at powwows. And that's kind of how I got into powwow dancing. At the time when I was breakdancing and when I was powwow dancing, I was just doing it because it kind of got me away from the negative activity I was doing in my life, and it made me feel good about myself. I was doing something that I felt like was good for my spirit. So that's the only intent I had when I got into powwow dance, was just to dance. I just love dancing. When I'm dancing, it just feels like anything that I'm going through personally or anything that's going on in the world, I feel like I can just kind of step away from it for a second and just be free. For me, dancing is freedom and freedom of self-expression. So that's how I feel when I'm dancing. I just feel free. And it's good medicine for me. Powwow and the powwow community is first and foremost, it's very open. So especially around here, the one thing I really like about it is just how welcoming we are towards other nations at our powwow. So like anybody can go, you can go and enjoy the food, go watch the dancers, go support the vendors. It's very just open and welcoming. And I feel like that's the spirit of powwow, is just honoring those four directions and, sharing with each other, helping each other, and providing happiness to one another during times where, people might not be so happy. My favorite dance is a dance that I don't even do, so it's traditional. I love watching traditional dancers, just the way that they tell their stories, and I'm always just in awe of the traditional dancers, so the men and the women's dance. There was a time in my life where I was just very angry. I was angry at the world, I was angry at my parents, I was angry at everybody and everything. I walked around with a lot of anger and hatred in my heart. And a lot of this was due to just things in my past, things that I experienced that I had never healed from. And one night I was walking home from dance practice, and I came across one of my elders, and this was really late at night too. She was just also walking home from, I think, having tea late or something. And I ended up having a conversation with her. She asked me how I was doing, and I just told her, not good. I'm mad, I'm very angry. These people are making me mad. And I was very just, in a state where you could just kind of feel my rage. And she kind of stopped me and held me back and was like, hey, like, you know, I know you're very angry right now. I know, you know, you're walking with a lot of hatred in your heart, but would you like a teaching that was given to me that helped me with my anger? And I said, yes, please, that would be awesome. And she basically just explained to me the teaching of love and how we can use that in a way to heal ourselves from a lot of different things we might be facing. And one of the things she told me is that, you know, before you go to bed and when you wake up, I would like you to practice sending love to those things that are making you angry. You know, just even if you have to say it, or maybe just say it in your mind, but try sending it love instead of anger and hatred, and see how you feel in a couple of weeks, or see how you feel down the line. And I didn't understand it at first, but I went home and I said, hey, if this makes me feel better, maybe I'll give it a shot. So I started doing that, and it literally changed my life, changed my entire life and perspective on just what's important and, you know, things you need to be doing to stay happy, and just how much better it is to walk around with love in your heart than hatred. And yeah, it's been a really important teaching that I still practice every day. It's been over 10 years since I heard that story, and it really helps me just put into perspective on how to be a better human being here while I'm on Earth. Everybody's story is different, especially when it comes to, you know, anger. I know a lot of us experience it in different ways. So for me, like, I would experience anger, and that anger would stay with me for days and days and days, sometimes weeks at a time. I just couldn't let it go. And for some people, it's really quick. They can just get over it and move on. But I was somebody who kind of held on to it. And one of the things I did to let it go was try to think about things I was grateful for. So instead of thinking, what's the worst possible outcome of this situation, I would try to switch my perspective and think about, well, what's the best possible outcome of this situation? And for me, I was really angry with a lot of people in my life who had come in and out and hurt me in my past. And it was hard for me to let that go. It was hard for me to forgive. And that's where that teaching of love really comes in, where all you can really do in some situations is, you know, offer prayers to those people who are suffering, and maybe think a little bit about their journey and why they do the things that they do, what makes them do things that might hurt you. And all you can do is, in the end, really, you know, I'm not saying you have to interact or love that person, but you can send them love in hopes that they get better on their journey and better themselves, so they stop hurting themselves and stop hurting people. And that's really what I started practicing, is not worrying about other people so much and more just loving myself. And with that, I was able to just overcome a lot of those issues that I carried with me. For me, it just all came down to how I felt about what I was doing. You know, when I was doing things that were maybe not in my best interests and causing harm to myself or people I cared about. And when it did make me feel good about myself was kind of when I was like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, you know. And that's what I always say is, you know, do what makes you feel good. You know, if you're doing something that makes you feel good, if you're doing something in a good way that's not harming you or others or people you care about, then, you know, that's the path you should be on. But for me, I was doing a lot of things that were negative. I was doing a lot of things that made me feel really bad about myself, hurting myself and others. And that's when I realized that, I just don't feel good right now, and maybe I should change something. Include yourself in events that are happening around your community. So whether it be, you know, maybe some marches that are raising awareness, maybe some local events where there's going to be some good elders, some speakers. I think it's always a really good thing to do is to show up first, show up and show your support for your community. And within that, you can always meet some really good knowledge keepers, people. That's kind of what happened with me, is I just started showing up to events. I started showing up to a few different marches kind of around activism, and I met some really good people that way. I met a really good community that kind of led me on the path that I am now. So but the first step would be putting in the work to find out about those things. Even if there's elders in your community, elders in your area, maybe reaching out and talking to them, asking for guidance, for knowledge. I think as young men, we tend to think that nobody cares about us and there's no help out there. But there is a lot of people who can help you. There's a lot of people who care about you and who want you to succeed. But you also kind of have to want that for yourself, and you have to go out there and sometimes get that help. To me, good medicine, it affects us in all different ways. But the way that I think of good medicine is what has a positive effect on your physical, your mental, and your spiritual being. So for me, my good medicine is dancing. I love to dance. It makes me feel good. It's a part of my mental, my physical, and my spiritual well-being. Also ceremony, I feel, does the same thing for me personally. I love being in the sweat lodge. I love being in the scapios, which is, in my language, an elder's helper in pipe ceremonies and stuff like that. I feel like doing things like that is also really good medicine for me personally. So for me, the word good medicine is just what makes you happy in a simple sense. There's all kinds of healthy relationships. There's healthy relationships with your partners, your friends, with your family. And I think the base of that is just having good communication, being able to communicate with one another, and just, being able to be honest with one another, as well as admitting when, you've done something wrong. I think is also the roots to a healthy relationship, regardless of who is it with, whether it's friends, families, partnerships. I think that those are some keys to just moving forward in a good way. And I've had friends who personally affected by MMIW. I had a good friend I grew up with that unfortunately was a victim, and just seeing how hard it is on family and friends, and just how devastating it is to an entire community when our women, girls, two-spirited people go missing or murdered. And it's something that I just wanted to use my platform to raise awareness about, in hopes that this kind of stuff can stop happening, and that maybe in hopes some kind of legislation or something could be passed where we could protect our people. That's one of the big reasons why I wanted to just raise some awareness about it. I never thought that I would be doing what I'm doing now, honestly. When I was younger, I didn't have a lot, didn't have a lot of money, didn't have, there was times in my life where I didn't have a lot of food on the table, and there was times where I didn't have a place to sleep. So I never really imagined me being where I am today, but I always just kind of had the mindset that if you do good things will happen. And good things never started happening for me until I quit drinking, I quit doing drugs, until I quit hurting people and hurting myself, and I started walking on a better path. And when I did that, when I made that decision, I was a teenager, and that's when good things started happening. So I just feel like if you're doing good things in a good way, good things will happen. I still have my off days. I think one very common perception of people who have large followings or who are doing really well, people tend to think that it's like that in all aspects of their life, but I still have my days, man, where, you know, mental health is not the best. I still have my days where I'm kind of feeling maybe down and blue about things that are going on in the world, or, you know, within my friends or family. So things are going good, but you know, you still need to put in that work. You know, you still need to talk to people when you need help. You still need to do things that are good for your mind, body, and spirit.